But yeah, like, oh yeah, I can see where a lot of the ridge is going to have to be lit up easily. Main thing I want to do is I want to have it so all the mountains and areas around the lake are lit up at night, because one, that'll stop all the mobs spawning near our base, and at least on the surface. And two, well, overall, I just think it would make the area look a lot prettier.
And one thing you can do to also hide the light sources is moss carpet.
I ain't making this.
So that way you have the light sources.
Go ahead.
So you have the light sources, but you can't see where the light sources come from. And since it would be on grass,
personally, I don't mind the whole. I really don't mind, if it's, I don't mind if the torches are visible. Oh, hello, friend. And there's the reason why I need to light this. There's stuff spawning. Rather quickly, too, I might add.
Ooh. Ooh.
More dang caves as per usual.
Get over here!
John, oh god. I think I just anime fell off a freaking cliff, but we're not going to talk about that. Well, would I? No, I hit the skeleton and then I just got yeeted off the cliff. Somehow. Well, once I get all the lights, the next thing I need to do is just reforest the cliff sides. Because there was a lot more trees before we started doing what we were doing. At least if I die here, I know how to get back. Just climb up. It's literally that simple. Alright, skeleton. Alright, I hear ya. Idiot. Yeah, personally, I don't mind seeing all the torches because it actually... it looks a bit more nostalgic, really, you know? Oh yeah, now that's a lot better. Oh, that actually looks pretty.
Better spawn rate?
What? What did you say?
I thought you were going to talk about the spawn rate being better.
No. The lighting for the mountain looks better. Yeah, I don't mind if the torches are visible. It's more nostalgic for me because that's how I always lit up the area, was by torchlight.
And that's for back in the early days of Minecraft, that's pretty much the only lighting you had to do.
Well, of course. Plus, I'm still one of the old school players in that I light everything up overly well, even though the lighting mechanics have changed in terms of, like, mob spawning. I still go around and put a metric ton of torches up, even if there don't need to be. Especially in caves. I'm real bad about doing it in caves, but can you blame me there? You know?
It can't be too safe.
Oh yeah, and I mean, even if you did leave some caves unlit, that's just asking for trouble at some point, you know? Not being critical, I'm just simply saying. Plus, that was one of my things. Aside from lighting the interior caves, I wanted to light up the mountains and whatnot along our base that pretty much. I wanted to light up the mountains that essentially form our base wall, so to speak. You know, because I always thought they looked pretty. And dang, all this stuff I planted grew in nicely. That's good.
And part of my mind is still going back to that world on the PS4.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of videos and stuff regarding, you know, so-and-so Minecraft world and all that. With, like, the older music where it was just C418 stuff. Honestly, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, it's still nostalgic.
You know, for most, it's like heartbreak, but I can't blame them at all. It's hard, you know? Especially if you're a player who's come back after so long, you know? Like
It's nostalgic.
Yes, but the problem is a lot of nostalgia hurts. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a sad way, but at the same time, regardless, the tears come. Because it makes you think. Think of friends you had that are gone. Think of things you made that may no longer be accessible or gone. You know? Yeah, it makes you stop and think. Like all this, for instance, this server could corrupt and everything we've built in just the last few months could be gone in an instant. You know? That's one reason I try to film it as often as I can, because they could all disappear.
And it's one of the main reasons why I'm trying my best nowadays to back up everything and take screenshots. So I don't have to lose anything permanently again, and having to rebuild it from memory. Which again is what I had to do for the Temple of Time. The only pictures I had were 3 pictures. The wireframe, which were 2 pictures, and one of them being an interior picture from when it was completed. That's all I had to go off of, apart from the references I originally used to build that version of Temple of Time. Creeper! Have to get those braziers in. But yeah, one of the reasons for me having Test World now, it was for me trying to build everything I could remember. Because some of those builds I passed through more than once, so I still had some of the residual memory left. So I kept building until something felt familiar.
Oh Lord, with me, if I tried to rebuild the first ever Minecraft world that I made, I'll put it like this: the base was a hole in the ground. I took a bunch of TNT, did what any 13-year-old would do, blew a hole.
Boom.
Well, yeah, I pretty much blew a crater up from, at that time, the main ground level all the way down to bedrock, and I just, after that, I went to town and just started building. Tell you the truth.
And
I'm listening.
And I would have mentioned before, but like a lot of the builds I have on our spot in MCMP, is all salvage builds. Stuff that I salvaged from either memory or that I start to rebuild over on the other world. And eventually we had a spot for me to put them. Like again, Temple of Time, Lady, my house.
I'll put it bluntly. You
And
may
it-
want to ask them for a world download just so you'll have all that. Because understand, if that server shuts down, literally everything everyone's built will be lost, because it's just you know what I mean.
Like even though Lady was in that train station, you probably was seeing me working on. I still count her as a salvage build, even though I didn't rebuild her in that train station. Which and also with us being placed in this location, like it gave me a chance to
Try
always
again.
do things that I didn't get the chance to do. Like I had a spot I picked out that I called Muffin Mountain that I was gonna build Lady, but I didn't get to do it because I was too focused on the main areas where we normally build.
Well, I'll put it like this. I think Silsark and them are going to be very, very surprised when they come back, because I'm amazing myself with this, because I'll put it like this. The the railroad is now well past where I had it stopped in our main base area. In fact, it's only a few blocks away from our mill setup, our old smelting setup at base. Now I gotta decide what mushroom to sacrifice. Yes.
Have you ever had one? Do you ever have one of those roads that has a lot of old stuff still remaining on it, and it kind of creates almost like a historic site?
Well, I had my first ever Minecraft world, I think, was on my old Toshiba computer, but unfortunately it got wiped. And really, by the time I went to try and document it, all the updates had corrupted the world. I remember it was a desert where I made the desert temple itself into my base. It was a creative world. I want to point that out here and there. It was a creative world in the desert where I made the desert temple into my base. I had each area segued off or walled off. And at the top, I actually made a garden, believe it or not, that worked rather well. I made it a rooftop greenhouse. And there was, I remember, a short distance away was a combination dungeon, stronghold, and mineshaft, amalgamation that I actually tried excavating. I literally started to dredge out the stronghold. And I actually had excavated the whole thing. And understand, this is me either dynamiting or digging sand and stuff out by hand, computer-wise, for literal hours. So you can tell I didn't have a lot of time. I had a lot of time on my hands. But yeah, I knew next to nothing about downloading worlds or backing stuff up back then, so a lot of the early worlds where I actually made a lot of my stuff were lost, sadly.
Well, one of my worlds. Well, I still have a lot of my old worlds. Thank goodness for me learning to back up my files early, some of my files early on. But in my city, every once in a while I come across some old pieces of like the 2012 version, and I kind of preserve them as historical landmarks, as they're part of my city's history. Like at times when I go digging for something, I dig up parts of some of my old builds from back in 2013 or something.
So what is your
And
city?
I have pictures and some.
Is your city literally? Is your city in that world just like the Minecraft equivalent of Rome, where it's literally like a case where you just built on top of existing stuff and just buried it?
Not really. There's times I tore stuff down, but there's some stuff that was left below the ground that had been left buried for who knows how long until I come across them, wondering what they were, and then I go back to either that backup file or look at the screenshots and like, oh, that's what it was. Like recently, I found a line of stone bricks buried in the ground in my backyard of my current house. I was wondering what they were. I thought they were the foundation walls for the Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria that I had.
Oh God!
But I checked, and that wall didn't reach out to where my backyard is. But I checked, and it is in fact one of only 3 of the remnants of the old transit system from all the way back at the very beginning, like 2012 or even 2013. The only other parts that remain is the overpass. Like, yeah, I have 2 pillars of an overpass that goes over what was supposed to be a highway, and 1 minecart, which is still in a water channel where the tracks used to go over.
So, in other words, an abandoned train wreck, basically. Nice to know.
Basically. You know, there was a period where I lost some backups.
You lost backups. Backups of the backups for the backups. I'm sorry, I'm just being funny. I'm listening, by the way.
In 2015, I
pull up your computer. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm just trying to lighten the mood. That's
I know.
Children!
Because...
Sorry, Thoron, hold on a second. You little buggers are persistent. Get out of my Oi! Get out of my mushroom farm! Get out! Get out! Get out! I'm gonna die. I'm gonna bloody die.
I outsmarted all of you.
I outsmarted them. Uh-oh. I better make sure the villagers are safe.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
I need to make sure the basement is shut. Okay, good, it is. Thank God. That would have been very bad. That would have been very bad. Nah. Shield Shark comes back, and everybody's just zombies. I'm hoping they'll burn to death once day comes.
We good now?
I'm having to heal up, but I'm gonna kill those suckers. Okay, I don't like how they're gone. You were saying?
In 2015, I
Jesus.
decided I decided to do some maintenance on my computer myself. Like, I was actually do a full reset. Like, what? Like, my computer had something in place where you would kind of almost reset, but it would just get rid of the software stuff and leave everything else. But I forgot to back up the screenshots and some of the worlds. In 2015, at this point when I did this, like, it seemed fine the first time I did it, but this time I end up losing a few files.
Oh no.
So there's a massive gap between like about 2014 to later on in 2015.
Ouch.
And one of them is one of the backups for my city, which at time, even though I had backups, but since I don't think I saved it to anywhere else. It's when I have this military base. It went through a few transitions, and it's at that point where it's transitioning between the military base and museum. Where I have the file where it's all cleared out, ready for it to be converted to a museum, but the time before that, I had lost, even including a few other worlds. But I also have backups of some of those other worlds. But the thing is, they were before I made some of those changes, and sometimes don't realize that till years down the road. But the one thing that was also close to actually losing was the Carpathia, the large one. Because the Carpathia 3, that one I think was like either version 3 or version 4. And I was close to losing it. Because at times if my computer like almost crashed or something, or the game would crash, it would corrupt the world. It didn't really do that with my previous computer. Thank goodness. But this one, I was close to losing all the progress I've made on her. But the backup I had was luckily, the only thing I had to finish again was the stern. Everything else was completely fine. Because I did several versions, but they lost due to world corruption. But I guess with each one I lost, there were improvements being made with each one. Until I had what was I considered to be the perfected version. So I guess there was a bit of a silver lining to it.
Yes. Well, I'm building the foundation for the world's first train station, our main Minecraft, like Steel Shark server, that one. I'm making it a cobblestone foundation. And I'm actually making it a fairly wide station. I'm going to have the track curve in and come in the middle. Speaking of which, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, tell if I... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good. It's center. That's what I wanted. Good. Yeah, I'm thinking
And
this
even on the
station...
PS4,
Go ahead. Sorry.
you go first.
No. You go first.
This is sounding familiar.
Oh, God. I don't know where you got...
The first How to Train Your Dragon.
You just gestured to all of me. I'm just kidding.
Deal.
Deal!
This conversation is feeling very one-sided. Deal?
You know, I love
Deal.
that a lot of people
Good.
say, oh, well, the remake is the same movie. Actually, from what I've heard, at least from what I've read, rather, yeah, it is mostly the same film, but since it's live action, they were actually able to give a little bit more depth and seriousness to the characters, you know? Since it's not, you know...
Yeah, even though I like how they did things in the original one, but Gerard Butler adds a bit more to Stoic.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he says things with a bit of a smile and stuff, like, trying, like as we see in the show every once in a while. But there's some things I actually liked about the new How to Train Your Dragon.
I'm not saying...
There's one thing about something...
I wasn't saying it was like a bad film, no. If anything, it's the opposite. I haven't had the chance to see it, but I've heard good things. I've heard really good things about it.
There's something I consider it to be better than any of the Disney remakes. And that's saying something.
Well, the reason it's better is because the original creator came out of retirement, so to speak, and took the helm. I mean, I'll put it like this. It'd be like if somebody was wanting to do a live-action version of the original Land Before Time. That would take Don Bluth coming out of retirement to make sure that that was done right. And even then, it would be very different from what those who saw it in the 80s grew up with, you know? Because I grew up with that series as a kid, and I actually... And, you know, Steven Spielberg's fears about kids getting freaked out were a little bit ill-founded because I wasn't scared by the first movie, and it's one of the more serious of the bunch. Or it is the serious one in the bunch, you know? And what's funny is it already sort of retcons all of the other material that came after it because the original movie has an epilogue, you know? Even though most people probably don't remember it.
Yeah, out of the live action remakes I've seen, like, if we're just look at the Disney ones, in my opinion, the best one is Aladdin. Like, you have the original creator coming back, you have one of the original composers coming back, you have a great cast.
Well, I'll put it like this.
Locations.
Well, I'm sorry. Will Smith can do as the genie as much as he likes. Nobody would ever be able to replicate what Robin Williams did. I mean, I think...
He wasn't trying to replicate.
No. I know he was doing his own thing. I never saw the remake. I'll just say it. I've seen the original as a kid. Haven't seen it since, but as a kid, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, out of the live action remakes I've seen... that the way I rank it, like I would have Lion King at the bottom, I have Beauty and the Beast right in the middle, and Aladdin on the very top. At times, Aladdin is almost a go-to movie now because we like it that much. Again, you have the original creator coming back and kind of revising some stuff that would be considered questionable in the original movie. So. There's actually a few improvements, and even pulling in some references to the original one, even bringing in sound bites from the original movie to fill out some of the background stuff in the marketplace.
Huh. Well, that's a nice touch.
And they also bring in a few other references to the original one. which would take you by surprise if you actually watch it. But yeah, Beauty and the Beast, I don't think was that bad. Like, they gave the Beast a solo, which is something he didn't have in the original one. And I think with this one, they also gave kind of an explanation of why people didn't remember the castle. Because I think it'll be one of the questions left over from the original one is why no one remembered the castle being there. Despite it only being 10 years. Even though people can forget a lot in 10 years. But having a major castle with a lot of people they know being in that castle kind of makes me wonder how they could have forgotten it when they walked into that castle and didn't recognize anything. But they kind of gave an explanation in the remake that it was part of the enchantment. It's only when they walked in that they had the thought they recognized the place.
I love it. It's like, it's an old song from way back when, and we're going to sing it again. That's sort of what I'm thinking of. There's like I forget the name of the song or play, but it was, I can't remember.
But if I was going to count a little, technically I would probably also count in 101 Dalmatians. But it's been a long time since I last saw that one.
Ah, yes.
Because I remember they made a remake in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Glenn Close as Cruella de Vil. Which I think people still recognize her as Cruella.
Oh, yeah. I actually remember the 101 Dalmatians stuff. I actually saw those as a kid. You know, it's funny, like, I remember seeing all this as a kid, but at the same time, it's like, some of it's faded from memory. I know, to be honest, I didn't watch a lot of Disney stuff as a kid. Save for Atlantis and Lilo and Stitch and Treasure Planet, which I learned about that movie later in my early teens, believe it or not. I mostly looked at more of Don Bluth's work more than anything else. I had Secret of NIMH, Land Before Time. I had his sort of big three, if you know what I mean. You know, NIMH, Land Before Time, All Dogs. I saw American Tail later on, but never actually had a copy of the film, physically. I'll just say it. Whatever he had planned, he did a great job with. And I actually recently went back and rewatched Secret of NIMH, and I'm telling you, just those painted backgrounds, if you were to hang those up in a gallery, I guarantee you they would sell for a lot of money. And that's without the buyer knowing they were from, you know, one of his animated films, you know? They're that good. That's the reason I love all this animation and why I always go back to it now and again, even as I get older. It's not just because of childhood nostalgia anymore. It's because of the fact that it's become a very lost art. And even though, like, some of these places are bringing 2D animation back, it's not going to be what we all remember. It's not going to be hand-drawn anymore. It's likely going to all be done on the computer. And also, even potentially with AI doing some of the work, you know?
Like, when it came to the short Once Upon a Studio, they had to bring back quite a few of the original animators, like 2D animators for a lot of the characters, because you have the 3D animated characters, but you also have those that required hand-drawn animation and stuff like that to get the feel right.
And personally, you can't. Even if you redrew that stuff 2D on the computer, it would not be the same. Because with physical cell-drawn animation, I mean, you can see all the stuff that gives it life. I mean, like a good example, Ed, Ed and Eddie was the last, and you know, produced that it was the last animated show that actually used hand drawn cell animation and the reason was because of its iconic, squiggly outlines around the characters. It was a unique trait that the show became well known for, and they literally took that and ran with it because it became iconic. I remember watching that show right to the end. I watched the last thing they put out in 2009. God, it seems like everything we grew up with went down the tubes that year, because that was when a lot of these long-running shows from like the last year of the 90s finally sort of ended, after like 10 or so years.
Which year was this again?
2009. That's when Ed, Ed and Eddie finally stopped running. That was also when a lot of Cartoon Network's really well-known shows just finally stopped, Like, I remember them all, like Camp Lazlo, Miss Foster's Home, Chowder, Ed, Ed and Eddie, Johnny Bravo, Billy and Mandy. The fact I remember them all by memory alone should say how much I remember them.
And well, we didn't. I only saw like a few episodes of Johnny Bravo because we didn't have cable, but my grandmother did, and I have some shows playing on YTV. It's one of the channels we have up here, and I would catch some of these shows that you wouldn't get on the TV packets that we normally have.
I forget. Are you in? Forgive me. Hang on. Let me pause my recording real quick.
I think maybe after 10 or 11, up until around 4:30, maybe 5. There's like your after school stuff. And you have the preschool stuff, which was like the Nook and Giselle's Big Backyard, which was for preschoolers. Where sometimes you would have we also get some British programs, Polka Dot Shorts being one of them. And
let me guess, Thomas, because I grew up with the tape.
He was one.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, he was one. He was one of the major ones that was on during that time, and I think maybe a few episodes of Arthur.
Honestly,
but yeah,
you know what's funny? Like, I mean, I'll say it. Thomas the Tank Engine is what got me into trains, but here is the thing. It wasn't what started the bug. No. Ironically, I also have Canada to thank for that because of the White Pass in Yukon. That railroad is what cemented the train interest. My grandmother.
For me, it was.
My grandmother actually had visited Skagway in around 2003, and when she left Skagway, she brought 2 souvenir films back. One that had been made about the railroad that year, and another that was made probably just under a decade prior in the early 90s. The minute I watched them both, I was hooked and I never moved. I mean, that...
Oh, for me, it was...
Go ahead.
You finish.
I'll put it like this. The White Pass film is so important to me that I actually, early on in the YouTube thing, I uploaded it to my channel. Not infringe copyright, but to save the footage because the physical disc had started degrading. So I did it as a sort of last-minute archive project. That way I'd still have it, And, yeah, when I rewatched it later, after someone else uploaded the same footage, oh my gosh, the nostalgia was glorious. I loved it. Oh.
For me, it was a mix of Thomas and the fact I grew up and I have the pictures right here, and I'm putting them under the gaming channel, or I might actually send it to you through DM.
Well, I know you're in Ontario, so there is a lot of rail activity there.
I never actually saw all that much rail activity. But luckily, I had another thing that inspired me, apart from my father's train set. But there's one. There's two. And three.
Ah, yes. I've actually heard of 3100. There's actually... It was the subject of I believe, a technical film that was made covering its entire design and construction process. Literally from the start all the way to the finish, if I'm not mistaken. The documentary was on YouTube. Ah, yes.
These are the three major engines I grew up with. Even though the Sergeant Tech had a few others, one of them's in this hall as well. But it was mainly these three engines: Canadian Pacific 3100, Canadian Pacific 2858, and Canadian National Railroad 6400.
I think the reason
it's mainly those three engines.
Well, I think the reason these were saved, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is because weren't they in a promotional lineup of all the motive power from the early days up to the dieselization era? I think I think that was the case, particularly with the last one. 6400 was in that promotional photograph. It's rather famous, if I recall correctly.
Well, these are some of the engines that were kind of like the heavy runners. Like the U4A model, U4A Northern, which is 6400, they had a long line with a modification between 6405 and 6410, where the grills on top had more of a slope, kind of like the kind of thing you have the type of shaping you have with a snowplow, like the one Thomas had.
You mean
the
wedge plow.
Yeah, that was one of the heavy runners. 2858 is a Royal Hudson locomotive.
I know that because 2816 is one of the sister engines.
There's still quite a few of them around.
Yes, but no, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, 2816 is the only non-streamlined Hudson still around. I think it was the only one saved, and the rest were all streamlined. In fact, I think most of the Hudsons that are over in Scranton, Pennsylvania, they're all streamlined too, if I'm not mistaken. No, to be honest, I haven't been back to Steamtown in probably, 10 years now. Because the first time I went to Steamtown was the first time I went to Strasburg, Cass, and Spencer, respectively. And when I went in 2015, they were in real sad shape. I mean, they had a lot that honestly needed doing. There was a lot of cosmetic stuff that needed to be done. The turntable didn't have any track on it. 4012 was in a real sad state. And a lot of the outdoor stuff and a lot of the equipment that was just parked outdoors for the last 25, 30 years was really just deteriorating at a really fast rate, to the point where I didn't think a lot of that stuff would be able to be saved. A lot of the steam engines especially were in a really sad state. And remember, Pennsylvanian winters are just as cruel to stuff like that as Canadian winters, you know? Especially when you also factor in that Pennsylvania uses road salt in almost everything, you know?
And getting back to the history of the engines.
Sorry.
3100 was saved primarily because of how innovative she was.
Only 484.
Even though that's when she got the high. Even though she rattled when she got the high speeds, but because of how revolutionary she was at the time, that's one of the reasons why they saved her. Even though she was converted to oil burning, and that was kind of her career after that.
If I'm not
Like,
I don't mean to interrupt. It's just if I'm not mistaken, it's one of only. It and its sister were the only two 484 Northerns built in Canada, and I think both were saved because of that fact as well, weren't they?
I only know of 3100.
I think its sister was. I think its sister is still around. I would just check.
I don't know.
I would check because I swear last time I looked, the sister engine was still in existence at last reports, but I'm not sure.
And for 2858, there's a part of her history that I couldn't really find any pictures of because all the information I had was on the info plaque, which I didn't get any close-up pictures for.
I'll put it
If
like
I have any
this.
Here we are.
Yeah, I was gonna
That's
say
better angle.
you might want to do what I do, which is photograph the info plaques.
I think they've been changed out. Because the museum went through renovations a number of years ago, and they changed the train hall. Now, the engine's are still there, but the info plaques they used to have aren't there anymore. In this picture I posted, have a look at the, what's it called? The thing that the piston rods go into.
The cylinder.
Yeah, the cylinder. I was trying to remember the train term.
Oh, that shot
you-
reminds me of Winston Link right there.
But have a look closely at the cylinder.
I see it. Are you talking about the plate in the middle? That was just to access the cylinders. Or to
Right.
get inside the cylinder shroud.
Right beside it and just above it. You see how light is different in that one spot compared to the rest of the cylinder.
I don't know, man.
I wish I had a better picture, which you also see on the railing bit. You see dents in her side.
If you're talking about the cylinder casing,
Because there's a large dent in it.
well, that could have been either due to a minor derailment or something that happened when they were moving the engine inside the museum. Because it looks like they would have had to have craned them in. I don't know if they would have towed them in. Well, no, I say that. No, I say that because, but then I also remember that in Augusta, one of the few surviving Georgia Railroad locomotives, 282, was towed into the building. And then they tore the tracks up until they had what they needed inside.
Those dents that you see, you'll also see on some other parts of her side, but that's the major one. She has that because at one point she derailed
I literally just
during her career.
Well, that's literally what I just said. It was likely from a derailment.
And one of the pictures that they have on the info plaque is her lying on her side.
Oy.
Like you can see the entire underside of the engine. But
Yeah, that's a problem.
They managed to get her back up, and she continued on,
that's a bit of an issue.
Now we still have her. But yet she still has those marks. they didn't smooth them out or anything when they
Well,
went to have gone in for repairs.
Well, I mean, Southern Railway 4501 actually has to this day a repair done to her frame because of a derailment that occurred during its service career that went undocumented, and it I don't know. There was. I'm going off of what the documentary that was made telling 4501's full story. Then there was one. It apparently had its frame was apparently bent in an undocumented accident during its revenue years, and it and when I say revenue years, I mean for Southern Railway. And later, when they were doing excursions with it, they noticed the bend was in the frame was still there. And it's likely still there now, because that's not easy to fix. Even back in the steam era, that was a very tough fix. And speaking of railroad stuff, I'm starting to try and slowly build the base's train station. I just don't know what to do for its layout.
And one thing that I learned recently. Of course, you have heard of the CG Thomas stuff.
Oh,
obviously.
God. I really...
Because of being...
Please don't ever bring that up again. I'm sorry, but I'm a fan of the model stuff.
But I bring it up because, to my surprise, one of the engines that showed up, the character Vinny, have a look at what class he is.
Oh, Lord.
But I was kind of surprised when I found pictures of him, and I recognized the class of engine that he was.
You realize I really have not... I just want you to understand something. I haven't kept up with or taken any interest in any of the new Thomas stuff that's come out over the last 10 years or so. I bring it up because...
Neither have I.
Well, I've got good reason. It's because I've outgrown it. I mean, I'll put it to you this way. Remember what I was telling you earlier about me going back and occasionally watching stuff I watched as a kid for nostalgia's sake? As far as Thomas goes, the stuff I rewatch is stuff from the model years. 1984 up until about, I think shortly before they went and changed everything in 2008. So if you wanted a timeline, there it is.
Yeah, I forget. I think it was one of the Crash compilations I was watching, and which covered both the model shows along with the CG. And one of the engines they showed was this character Vinny, and which is how I came to know about him. But yeah, I recognize his class right away. Because his class was one I grew up with. One of the... although now you probably don't want to see him. But
I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just, hey. Go ahead.
But the class that he belonged to, he's would have been a sister engine to 6400. A U for a northern locomotive. they had a Canadian locomotive
Well, they had
on the show.
Oh Lord, they also had. Well, they've also had equipment from, I believe, Asia, Middle East, America. They had a K4 and an articulated, at least on 2 occasions, from what I read. But,
But I was surprised to see like that specific model of engine in the show, even though although he has the number of 6407, which, as I mentioned before, with his specific class, the vents on top of him is the early model, like 6400 to 6500, because 6600 or 6406 to 6410 had the kind of wedge shape. And the color scheme that he had was only ever with the early ones.
I can't decide if I want to make this station out of diorite. I can't decide. I really can't. And I can't decide if I want to make it a single level station or a dual station or a 2-story station. I don't know. Other issue is the fact that this is meant to be a through station, something that's been very rare for me to build. The only reason it's rare for me to build is because of the fact the track layout is something I'm not used to working with.
And when you saw me working on some of the engines in Minecraft, I tried to build them to a scale where you have the feeling of standing right beside them. Because since these are the large express engines, they're massive.
I mean, I gather that.
Even when you're an adult, they're huge.
Well, of course, they had to be versus the speed they needed to obtain.
Like when you're a kid, like about 10 years old, walking into into the train hall, and you're greeted with these 2 massive engines.
Oh Lord, your eyes light up. That was my reaction when I saw 4012 for the first time in Scranton. That was at that time, as far as preserved steam goes, that was the largest. That was the first articulated engine I had the pleasure of seeing. And so Union Pacific gets the credit there in terms of largest preserved steam engine I had the chance to see, because it was only after the trip to Cass that I got to see 1218 up in Roanoke, as well as 611 and 2156, all lined up in the Big 3 formation. And that's actually a rare catch in itself, because I think shortly after that was when 2156 was returned to St. Louis, and it's still up there even now. But who knows?